If someone's never been to Strathcona Park before, how would you describe it to them?
How would I describe it? I would say, well, here's the Garden of Eden. It covers vast tracts of areas that have never been visited, and some that are rarely visited. And it happens to run from the lowest point on the island to the highest point on the island. It is an ark. There is an untold wealth of new species to be found. My name's Loys Maingon. I am a retired registered professional biologist. Among the things I do is I am BC Director for the Canadian Society of Environmental Biologists. For the past 15 years, I've had a large involvement with BC Nature and the local Comox Valley Nature. And I am Research Director of the Strathcona Wilderness Institute. It was formed around 1995 by Friends of Strathcona. They felt that not all Friends of Strathcona should be involved just in protest and in confrontation. That there was a need to have an outreach with the public, try to work with parks to move things forward for the betterment of the park. Protest is useful, but all the protest we get in BC tends to be after the fact, as a reaction. It would be more important to build a database accessible to the public, gather information on the park that can be used to help make proposals on the management of the park, and in the eventuality of crisis, have at hand solid arguments based on science. So what Strathcona Wilderness Institute does is it runs a series of naturalist programs, public education, public interface, and we run research programs, gathering information about the park. throughout the successive governments, naturalist programs were removed from BC parks. Famous statement was, naturalist programs are a breeding ground for environmentalists. So what we do is we breed environmentalists. When we started, the number of species known in the park was somewhere around 500. It's now at about 3,300. If you look at what I've done over the last 4 years, I have found anywhere from 1 to 2 species new to science per year. Definitely species new to North America, species new to BC, definitely new to Vancouver Island, definitely new to Strathcona Park. To put those numbers in perspective, the government paid experts to go and look at what was around the Clayoquot Sound Reserve. At great expense, they found somewhere in the order of 452 fungi. We have found 885 species of fungi at no expense to the public. Why the work is important comes out in terms of what happens in forestry. Forestry has many positive aspects. It's important economically, it's important socially, but the way it carries out, the forest is not surveyed. So we don't know what's in the forests. Foresters will look at economic species, but they do not look at non-economic species. They only look at those rare species which may be on a list for protection within their areas. But there is no comprehensive biological survey done. We are in a period of biodiversity collapse. This isn't obvious to many people, but it has an implication. Increasingly, the public realizes that these systems are very much like living superorganisms. And the more complex they are, the more resilient they are, the more they're able to sustain themselves. We are literally, and we have literally, torn apart the forests and the ecosystems of this province for economic gain. The information that we gather here in terms of the number of species that are present give us two things. They give us a roadmap to restoration, the positive side, but they also tell us that the way we have been conducting forestry has been at great cost, not just the forest, but to the people of British Columbia. We are blessed with Strathcona Provincial Park that back in 1910, the settlers decided to set aside a park inspired essentially from the John Muir model. Although it was not well managed for decades, enough of it has survived that it is literally, in my experience, a biodiversity ark. Strathcona Park is changing around us. If you look at the meadows, you'll see an increasing number of Steller's jays. The Steller's jays is supposed to be a lowland bird. If you look out your door here, you'll see Himalayan blackberry. That's a species that's supposed to be at low elevation. We have it here. In the meadows, Willows are now competing with twin flower, which shouldn't be here. We're seeing the flora change, everything is changing, but we have to keep track of it to understand it. National Parks of Canada commissioned a report that came out this summer. And what they're finding is quite a few of the parks were set aside to protect certain species. However, with climate change, the species have moved out. Their use is shifting. We in Strathcona Park, being one of the largest parks in BC, are about to face the same problem. Things are moving. The actual park and conservation boundaries need to become more flexible. We need to expand. In order to preserve the values of the park, you have to have connectivity. And within that connectivity, understand how species are moving, species populations, what the dynamics are. So you have to, in fact, look at your park boundaries and say, okay, for this species to survive, it needs more space. Some of that is done by looking at fungal movement. Fungi play such a key role in the movement of plant species. So one way is to trace fungal movement. It's been done elsewhere, and it can be done here. It's tremendously labor intensive, but it can be done. Nature is not static. It moves. You have to manage things for movement. It is, as I say, complex, but it can best be addressed in terms of Strathcona Park by creating a larger boundary of protected area in co-management with First Nations and revising the entire recreation and forestry management practices. You don't need to go to the Amazon to find new species. Now, I'll give you the number. So, according to iNaturalist, Strathcona Park has at least 3,350 species, most of which were identified by Strathcona Wilderness Institute. The Pantanal in Brazil is one of the world's most biodiverse places. It has 4,250. I believe that in a few years we'll be catching up. Nobody's really gone and surveyed what's in the Maingon Wilderness. The high areas around Gold Lake in the north end are largely unsurveyed. All I've surveyed is probably about 10%. There's a lot of untouched areas and very biodiverse ecosystems. My specialty is limnology, the study of freshwater ponds, freshwater ecosystems. I can tell you that every pond in the Forbidden Plateau has a different set of algal species, new species, never exactly the same. They're all different. The richness is almost bottomless if we can appreciate it. And that's the whole key. Can we appreciate it? Can we appreciate it enough to protect it? We have to understand the sacred responsibility that we have to other species. And I think if we want to reconcile with First Nations, We have to start thinking a lot like our ancestors did and as they do.